Hello and welcome back to the podcast. I'm very excited to be starting our new season with this episode. But first of all, I need to say thank you for your patience. There has been a bit of a break here in the Elliott household. We had COVID in June, we had COVID in July, and it's just taken so long to get kind of back on our feet and back into the swing of things. And I know that many of you out there know what I'm talking about because I'm certainly, we are not alone in the sickness, first of all, in the canceling everything, in the trying to prevent family from catching it, in the taking forever to feel better, and then just the eventual catching up with the life stuff, right? It's just that added uncertainty and pressure and stress. And I hope that if you have been through this too, that you're doing okay now, but I guess I've been shocked and then shocked again at how long it's taken us to get back on track. So I'm really excited to be back with the podcast, getting things kind of under control again. I've got plans so that in the future, these disruptions don't kind of disrupt the podcast and this conversation that we're happening. So that's exciting. There'll be more about that in the future. Uh, but I have been busy recording episodes for us to listen to. So I'm kind of like very excited to be bringing them to you. And today, actually, it's really nice to start with this episode because one of the listeners, Huey, emailed me and was like, you need to check out this guy. And I'm just going to read a little bit of that email because it says it better than I can. So he says, Dr. Daniel Fried has been my son's mentor for more than 2 years. When my then 5-year-old wanted to learn more about real science, Dr. Fried was the only one who believed and allowed a young child like mine to enter his classroom. Dr. Fried has a Ph.D. from Yale University, and his lifelong mission is to make college-level science accessible to younger students. He's taught many elementary students college-level biochemistry and organic chemistry. Now, I have a science kid, so when I read that, I'm like, okay, who is this guy? I need to know now. And that is actually a great intro, and I'll just add a little bit to that bio. So Dr. Fried, he's grew up in upstate New York, earned a PhD in chemistry from Yale. After a postdoctoral fellowship at the Weizmann Institute of Science, he became an assistant professor of chemistry. So then he started teaching upper school science. And he currently lives in New Jersey with his wife, 5-year-old son, and a new baby daughter. How cool is that? So we're talking to Dr. Daniel Fried today about his baby, his other baby, Biochemistry Literacy for Kids, which is an online learning system. And you also use like models for kids of any ages, but it's like college level science. And this is what our family needs, and it may well be what your family needs as well. And when I kind of had a look into it, what I loved about this was how accessible it is. Because it's one thing to find something that would be totally awesome for your kid, but it's another thing to find something that's accessible financially and just accessible in terms of getting into it. And so being online and doing Zoom classes, it's obviously very accessible. So I'm super excited to be bringing Dr. Daniel Fried to you today to talk more about his online science classes for kids. And so that you don't miss out on any of our podcasts, feel free to subscribe to Our Gifted Kids at ourgiftedkids.com. You can join our Facebook group where we've got a little extra video of Dr. Daniel Fried this week. And also check us out on Instagram. And keep loving your quirky, awesome people, and that includes you. Hi, I'm Sophia Elliott. As a parent of 3 gifted kids, I'm here to talk about all things gifted. Because I've been isolated and uncertain, and I felt like that parent. Then I found peace of mind, support, and my community. This podcast is about sharing that journey, actually parenting gifted kids, and connecting with advice and support. So we have everything we need for every member of our family to thrive. This is the Our Gifted Kid podcast. Hello and welcome. Super excited today to be introducing everyone to Dr. Daniel Fried. the creator of Biochemistry Literacy program. And now, Daniel, I'm just going to get you to tell us all about that in just a second. But first of all, welcome. I'm really excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. I really love your podcast, and it's just an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, when I saw your website, I'm like, oh my God, this gifted just screams gifted kids. And I was super excited because I wish we'd had this a few years ago. So, and we're still going to investigate it as a family, but for one of my kids in particular, would have, and I think he'd still love it. But first of all, right, tell us about what you do and how did you end up doing it? Go.
Sure. Yeah. I've been working on this for a really long time. When I was a graduate student at Yale, towards the end of the program, I really started to think about, could the knowledge that I had gained as a graduate student working in a protein folding lab, could that knowledge have been given to me, before I was 26 years old or whatever? Did I have to wait that long and go to a graduate school program to learn that stuff? So I basically started experimenting just kind of on a whim or just on a dare maybe to see if we could get little kids to appreciate things like protein folding and protein structure. And I had some really positive experiences with some of these experimental classes that I was doing. And I just thought, wow, there's really something here. Like kids really are turned on to this stuff, and it's so much easier to teach than I ever thought it would be. So that's kind of the beginning of the program. And over the years, as I was a professor for 6 or 7 years. And during that time, I really was able to become a good teacher and really learn the subject and be able to teach the subject, and just basically converting college level content into something that's approachable for little kids. That's really what this became. And then the pandemic really gave me the time, and that there was that need for homeschooling, and it all kind of came together. And so in the last 3 years or so, this really became a homeschool gifted program. And there's just a lot of people using it now. And, we're using physical models, computer models to make things in biology that are normally really intimidating, to make those things just really, really easy for kids and for any kind of learner, but even very young kids. So that's been the amazing journey that this has been, to just kind of try something totally that's never been really done before. And it's really working at this point. So it's just awesome to see it finally working out. That's a little bit about me, I guess, and the
Yeah,
program.
and it is really awesome because there's such a need for it in this niche. So it's offering that college level kind of knowledge and learning to kids of any age in a really accessible way. And this is totally your jam because you're currently teaching chemistry and biology at upper school, but you were an assistant professor of chemistry at St. Peter's University, but then you have a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry from Birmingham University and a PhD in chemistry from Yale. So
Yes.
this is your stuff.
Yeah, and before that I was a music major also,
Oh,
music
wow.
education major. So yeah, so part of the interesting thing about the pedagogy is I'm not coming to this as a typical science person. I have an arts background and a strong music background, so a lot of the pedagogy is very different from what you would have seen in your high school chemistry. So there's a whole bunch of weird things about me that come together to make this really unique. That's also part of the story.
Yeah, definitely. I can resonate with that myself. It's funny what parts of your life come together to you
Yeah.
find yourself in this place. So over the last couple of years, you've had these videos online, and you're now working with people from all over the world, really. I know there's a bunch of folk in Australia because I was actually talking to someone in our community only recently, and they just started homeschooling. I'm like, have you seen this thing? Like, yeah, we're doing it already. So it's obviously getting out there. Are you finding that? Where are you finding people are popping up from?
Yeah, no, this was one of the coolest nights of my life, honestly. I was driving to my cousin's house, and I got a phone call from Australia, and basically it was one of these homeschool groups wanting to kind of distribute the model kit in Australia and kind of help me promote it there. And this was in the beginning. I didn't really even have that many users at this point. And I was like, wow, this is like really cool. So there was really a founder effect. There's really quite a lot of Australians involved I'd say it's 100 at least. It's a good percentage of the program. So yeah, it's awesome. I mean, honestly, I love teaching chemistry. Like, that's great. I love working with the kids. But the coolest thing for me is just seeing, oh, we have someone from Africa now, or someone from, Northern Canada or something. Like, that's the coolest part for me, is like being able to, send this model kit all over the world and have kids begin to think like me that I never would have met, being able to think in a chemistry like way, a chemist like way. So that's honestly the top thing for me. Like, the chemistry is also cool, but
Yeah.
yeah, just being able to affect and change these kids' lives, because these kids, they wouldn't have anything like this. They wouldn't know to do this. Like, when I was a kid, I was kind of I never thought I would do chemistry. That was like something harder. I was more of collecting insects and a naturalist sort of person, studying animals, and I never would have been able to do chemistry. But it's so cool that this is now there, and so many of these kids want to be chemists. They want to be biochemists and researchers and doctors. So that's just amazing to me, to be able to be at the ground floor of these kids' academic lives. It's really amazing.
It is super exciting. And I totally get where you're coming from, because when I get like comments and messages from people and like, I'm in Mexico or Sweden, and I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, that's way cool that the world is such a small place these days. And so on your online course, people access it obviously through the web. There's currently about 100 or so lessons. And
Okay.
is that
Yeah. Well, if they were normal size lessons, there'd be hundreds, but I make really
yeah,
long lessons that
yeah,
people sometimes want me to chop up into smaller lessons, which I understand. But
yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of content. Right now, there's published right now, as of, August
What
2020, 2022, there's 24 units,
mhm,
but there's going to be a bunch more coming on that I have done. I'm going to be, I'm always adding to it. And my goal this year is to make it more high school aligned. So the original vision of the program was 12 units. So in 12 weeks, go from knowing absolutely nothing about chemistry to knowing protein folding, how proteins fold, and how hydrogen bonds and hydrophobic core governs protein folding a little bit. So that was the initial goal, and that's what people bought in the beginning, 12 units. But I've been adding to it over the couple of years that it's been going. So we cover all of basic college biochemistry now, a lot of general chemistry, and even some astrophysics. I have a 3-unit that's going to be coming on really soon. It's already done. I've already piloted it. Just have to get it on the website. It's on how do stars make elements, which I never was
oh
taught. Almost no one knows this stuff. I do a lot of research.
yeah,
It's so cool. I mean, how cool is it to know, like, where does nitrogen come from in
yeah.
the universe? So we cover like lots of different things, and it's going to be more high school line because people can get high school credit. But yeah, it's a lot of units: general chemistry, some organic, and biochemistry, and other fun topics too. So it's like eventually it'll be a one-stop shop for anyone who wants to learn about chemistry to biology, anywhere in that spectrum there.
That's super exciting. My eldest is into astrophysics,
Oh,
and
wow.
so we're definitely going to have a look at this, because it might just be something he doesn't know. And I would be super excited if that was the case. So yeah, that
Cool.
sounds awesome. And uh, so on the website, I noticed that you're obviously in the US. So our listeners in the US can get model kits developed there. So when you join, you suggest that people get this model kit. And for those people watching the video, you've got some there, and it's like plastic balls, and you've probably got more
Yes.
technical words for what those connections are called. But this allows kids to actually, I imagine, make those molecules and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I should talk about I keep talking about this big scale. I should talk about the product also. So what I'm really doing is it's like a flipped classroom model. It's like Khan Academy. It's video. I make videos, but they're very, very highly produced videos. All custom visualizations, animations. It's really beautiful. These things take me way too much time to make. It's months to make. So it's not just me kind of droning away on a chalkboard. It's like just the colors have to be just right, the organization, the pattern, the learning sequence. It's a whole psychology of chemistry learning. And that's how I'm able to reach these young kids, because I put so much work in the back end to making sure that it's like so easy to just take this in. So they watch the videos, they do worksheets, obviously. And then the real secret to it is the model kit. So, people have model kits like this, but I've been able to put together a custom model kit. And no one else has done this yet, but they
I was
guess
going
they
to say,
could.
I've never seen one like that. There are different
Special
kind
one,
of
yeah. So
bonds
the
and
special
things
one,
there, because we've had those in the
yeah.
past, but they're not that good.
Yeah, so the idea is that we can model hydrogen bonding, which is intermolecular reactions. So meaning interactions between molecules. So we can do like base pairing, like DNA base pairing like this. So that's
Mm-hmm.
how DNA comes together. This is how proteins fold together. We can do things like model the formation of ice. So each one of these, if people know the color coding, they would know that a red atom is an oxygen. There's two hydrogens. But because we have these like extra little holes here and these lone pair pieces, we can put these together, and then we get bigger structures, and we can see, for example, the hexagonal structure. So if you can't see it, I'm showing a hexagonal alignment of water molecules, and this is where we get the ice crystal from. And we can also shake it and melt the ice, and it falls apart. So there's so many different things that are a bonus for the special model kit. But just encouraging kids to model in general is really great. You don't totally need the special kit, but it's everything in the videos, everything I talk about, it can be modeled, and that's why it works. When I did chemistry, I don't remember really doing a lot of modeling. And that's what makes chemistry so intangible for people. I mean, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people have memories of just being totally disoriented in chemistry class.
Yeah.
And I had a really great chemistry teacher, but I think just the way it was back then, we didn't have the computer modeling. And a lot of stuff also wasn't known back then. I'm teaching stuff in my lessons that is like published a couple of years ago, things about
Wow.
biology that are just being known. So a lot of people ask, like, how do you teach chemistry to these little kids? It's because the subject itself has matured, and there's answers to things that are so interesting and so clear now that were not like that a long time ago. So it's just different, and I'm able to keep up with it. A lot of the traditional curriculum, it's got other things to worry about, and they're not allowed to innovate so quickly, so they're kind of stuck a little bit. So that's what you're getting cutting edge stuff that is just resonates really well with kids. Kids want to know how the world works. So I just, and I do. So I try to,
Yeah.
for myself, I want to do it, and then I try to share it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, for the parents listening, what excited me about it was it's obviously great content. You can see that, but it's also really accessible, because I don't know how many times I've seen something awesome, but then it's like, God, I can't afford that. And I'm really, like, how do we get that? Because our gifted kids are so many extras that we're forever kind of paying for and adding up. And I really loved how accessible this is for families. So if you're listening, don't feel like, check it out if you think this is going to excite your children, because yeah, that was one of the reasons I was super excited to talk to you. And it was actually a parent who got in touch to say, who was doing your courses, like, you really need to check this out and interview Daniel. And so that was super exciting as well. So thank you. I do read all those messages and get in touch. So
Yeah,
what I want to know
I have some.
is,
Oh, sorry,
yeah,
sorry.
go.
Go ahead.
So
No, I
no,
just
you,
saying I have some really like fervent parents that are just really trying to make this, help me out and make this work. Because
yeah,
I didn't start this as a business. I'm not a guy who has a bunch of investors and we were scheming a way to make a bunch of money off education. I literally made this because I wanted to see if kids could do this because
yeah,
I wish that I had this.
yeah,
And I'm still kind of approaching it sort of as an amateur business person, but it did have to become a business. One of the reasons is because the way I see it, it's so innovative that we sometimes have trouble with mainstream, institutions. They can't really figure out what this is. So it's never been funded properly. So the parents are so precious to me because they support it financially because it's expensive to run this kind of thing, and also they help spread the word about it. So that's just
Mm.
amazing to have parents that really take it under their wing and try to help with it. So yeah, I'm always grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get that because I'm the same. It's just kind of like, I really want to do this thing because I think it's awesome. It's kind of like, okay, let's make it work, which is really exciting. So tell us a little bit about what kind of ages are popping up in terms of the kids that are accessing your program.
Yeah, so I don't have all the demographics of
Yeah.
everybody. I base it on what I see in the Zoom classes, and there's a lot of kids have done the Zoom classes over the last couple of years. I don't know. The age might be averaging 8, 9, 10, and that range, 8, 9, 10, 11. When I'm writing the lessons, I think about what an average third grader or fourth grader would be able to do. And I have a very high opinion about what kids can do,
Mm,
which is also the undercurrent of this whole thing. I don't think that kids should be given baby stuff, watered
yeah,
down
which is
stuff.
great.
I think that kids should be
Absolutely.
given real stuff because they want to be treated like adults. I have a 5-year-old right now, and he desperately wants to be a grown up, and he like abhors baby stuff. So I'm
Hmm.
not making a baby version of chemistry. It's just a really clear version, and it treats the kids like it empowers them. It treats them like I feel like they're competent learners, which they are. And I think that's part of the secret also, is that they know that I believe in them and trust that they can do it. So when I'm working, this also, the other part of the story is that this wasn't designed to be a homeschool program. This was designed to be in public schools, and it is in public schools. I piloted it in public schools, rich schools, poor schools, all different kinds of schools. And the schools, the kids in the schools can learn it also. It doesn't necessarily have to be gifted kids. Gifted kids might learn it faster, and they may have more background knowledge, but this is made for everybody. And it's made, and the other point you were saying before is that it's accessible financially. It's made to be cheap because the whole point of this was that it should be adopted by schools, and schools don't have millions of dollars to buy an Oculus headset for every kid usually, and they don't have money for a virtual reality room. So it's plastic models, which don't cost much, and access to my site, which I make accessible, I think, for
Mm,
most people. And if it's not, like, I help them out, because it's really about getting this out there and getting
yeah.
everyone to experience this, because I really believe this can change the world. If people know what their world is, then they can change it, because then they have this power to make decisions and to know what things are, which is not easy for them to get. A lot of people don't know basic stuff, like what stuff's made out of, how basic biology things work. So that's what I'm trying to do. I rambled off your topic a lot there in that
No,
response. I'm not
no,
sure
no,
where
that's
we started
perfect.
from.
No,
Okay.
that's perfect. Because I think it's important just to acknowledge that if you're a parent listening, this could be something that your child just does as an extra interest on the weekend. If you're homeschooling, it's brilliant. If you're a teacher and this interests you and using it at the school, it's accessible and useful wherever you're coming from, which I think is really great. And and I love that you weren't like thinking of the gifted community, but the gifted community is just kind of going, oh my God, it's awesome, which is really fabulous. And I think that's
And
the thing.
I think I'm remembering what your question was. Your
Oh
original
yeah.
question was the
Oh
age.
great,
The
because I've
age is what your
forgotten.
question, and I totally forgot. The age is
Oh
late,
yeah.
mid late elementary school,
Mhm.
but as for the gifted kids, it's a little different. I've have kids that have started this when they're 5 years old.
Yeah.
I have a 5-year-old right now. I mean, these are brilliant kids. It's just amazing to see that these kids are so on point with it, and talking about, I'll say, why is it that an oxygen can what's so special about an oxygen versus the carbon? Oh, the oxygens can hydrogen bond. And it's just amazing to hear a 5-year-old, 6-year-old saying that. So it's a lot of people, it's hard for them to sometimes tease the difference out here. We have kids that are very young doing this, but it's not for young kids. It's for really
Mhm.
anybody. It just happens to resonate really
Yeah.
well with young kids. It's really a high school curriculum. It's a prep for, in the United States, we have the advanced placement test. So this is advanced placement prep material for, the higher level high school courses. But little kids want to learn this. So I kind
Yeah.
of have them in mind when I make the curriculum.
And so that note, what has surprised you most about this journey that you have been on?
Yeah, okay, that's a surprise. Well, the surprise is that it finally started to work. There was a long
Yeah.
time when I never thought I was doing it and it just like wasn't working. I didn't know who the right audience was, and it took a really
Yeah.
long time to figure out, oh, like getting stuff online for homeschool, like that's really going to be my core audience. Like that's
Hmm.
so that worked. I was going after schools for too long, and now I love when schools come to me, but it's really hard as a single one
Yeah.
person to like deal with marketing to schools. It's just not really
Yeah.
possible. But homeschool parents, they see it, they like it, they buy it, and then I can help them. So that's been the success of it. Some of the surprise, I mean, unfortunately, one of the big surprises was how difficult it was to get people to believe that this was real. I got a PhD, I became a professor, I felt like I was a real person, but I would tell people that I'm designing a curriculum, I'm working with little kids, and just the skepticism is still amazing that people can't get past that this is possible, that kids, whether they're gifted or not gifted, that kids can do this. There's just so much skepticism still, and that's been really disappointing. And just a lot of people just trying everything they can to kind of wish it away. But unfortunately, I've around I just emailed everyone a message like my monthly. I have almost 1,000 accounts now, so it's like it's like this train. What's the boat has sailed here. Like this
Yeah.
really is a real thing. There are ways of organizing high level knowledge and science so that it's accessible to everybody. They really are learning, they're not memorizing or something. I wouldn't be wasting my time if I was doing some kind of memorizing course. So but that's been unfortunately the surprising part,
Hmm.
that I haven't had a lot of support from people I thought would be supportive in maybe important educational positions. Let's say.
I get that completely. Like, as a parent of three gifted kids, many years ago, I kind of had this moment, and it was like, I never want my kids to have barriers because of the lack of imagination of the adults around them. Do you know?
Yeah.
And it speaks to that very much. It's like people really underestimate what kids can learn and what they're interested in, and the fact that they want to learn it. It's not like you're being a pushy parent. It's like,
Yeah.
uh, you know, like I said, my eldest is a real science kid, and he just consumed and absorbed, like things that we were just trying to keep up. So yeah, I really get that, and it's just like I said, super exciting to have a resource like this out there, and there's not enough, and I love that it's also, you're saying this is like recent research, and it's really kind of up to date. My
Yeah.
my son, when he reads a book now, he'll actually flick to the front and he'll be like, if it's not kind of published within the last 5 years, he'll be like, oh, it's a bit out of date. I'll have to read it as a historical text. Which always makes me laugh. But
Nice.
science moves, right? And it's really great to be on top of all that stuff. So that's super awesome. So how do people get in touch? Where do they find you and the course?
Yes, if you just search for biochemistry kids, it's called biochemistry literacy for kids, but anything to deal with kids and biochemistry, I will come up in some way, whether it's on social media or on my website. There's really no one else doing this. There's really no one else that's working with kids in chemistry and really biology, I guess, that at this level. So it will just pop right up if you forget even what it's called. Biochemistry literacy for kids.com is what it is. And yeah, so you can go there, you can see the website. I initially made a bunch of documentaries, actually. So if you go to the website, you'll see some professionally produced video of some of the school programs that I did, where you can hear, how this was done in a school, just on a very short-term scale. Even just after 6 or 7 units, you can hear these kids talking, and these are kids in different schools around New York City, and you can just hear what it's done for them. And but really what this does online for the homeschool community, this is a real deep dive. This is a long-term, it can be a long-term commitment. You can really do this for multiple years. Once you finish the normal curriculum, we have Zoom classes where kids stay on, and I just kind of go over different topics and teach them whatever their interests are. So kids have been with me for 3 years now. So yeah, you can go to the website, you can look at the lesson registration, you can get yourself a model kit or two. And you can look at what Zoom classes are available at the time. I'm always teaching at least 3 or 4 Zoom classes. I have an Australian-friendly Zoom class time that is starting in September. It's at this time it's 10 at night for me, but it's at a good time for Australians, and
That
it's a
is
gifted
appreciated.
group.
Just
Yeah,
thank you
it's
on
a group
behalf
of
of
gifted
all the
kids.
Australians.
Yeah,
Thank you
no,
very much.
from time to time, I do try to make sure I start a class that's at a good time for people in like Singapore and Australia. And yeah, and then those classes continue for months, and we go through all the lessons, and the kids learn everything. So that's what it's about. Yeah, and you can also look on. There's a Facebook user group if you want to like hear from the other parents. I have a nice Instagram page where you can kind of see all different kinds of stuff, what's gone on over the years. So yeah, I'm very accessible. Sometimes people message me and they say, "Oh, can I talk to a customer service representative?" And I'm like, "Oh, I am the customer service representative." So if you ever need any help, like I'm always there to help the families and answer technical questions and fix a glitch or something. So I really want this to be a great experience for everybody.
Brilliant. I love it. And I'll put all of those links in the show notes so everyone can find that nice and easily. And I just want to thank you for coming on today and chatting to us about this wonderful kind of opportunity for all of our gifted kids. Super exciting. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much. It's amazing to be on your podcast.
Yeah, and I always say to guests, please keep us updated. If you're doing various things in the future and like, I want to tell everyone about it, like, come on back and let's tell everyone about it because it's very exciting.
If you enjoyed this episode
Awesome, I will.
and it inspired you in
Awesome.
some way, I'd love to hear about your biggest takeaway in the comments. For more episodes, you can subscribe, and to help others find our podcast, please leave a review. You can find show notes and more resources at ourgiftedkids.com, and connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. See you in the same place next week.